We are joined by NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Sirkin, as well as Jamil Jaffer, who is the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute and a former associate White House counsel to President George W. Bush. Julie, let's start with you. What can we expect today? What is at stake here?
Well, good morning, Joe. Look, this is going to be a marathon hearing, nearly 4.5 hours. There are 50 members on the Republican-led Energy and Commerce Committee. And look, the TikTok CEO is going to be in the hot seat because there are a lot of themes here, from national security to how these TikTok influencers make a living on this platform. Fortunately for the CEO, the influencers descended on the Capitol yesterday, making largely the case for him. We heard from so many of them saying that they are small businesses, their livelihoods rely on this app. We heard from others also talking about the political organizing that happens on the app, the community that they're finding there. But in the end, there is bipartisan opposition from Democrats and Republicans to the app. Already half the states in the country have posed some restrictions on government phones, especially now we know there is a bill that is supported by top high-ranking Democrats on intelligence panels to outright ban the platform altogether. And the CEO of this platform is going to try to make the case to prevent that from happening. But all signs are pointing to the fact that he's going to have a very hard time doing this. There's going to be freedom of speech, privacy concerns that lawmakers are going to bring up. So just a lot to watch here this morning as this hearing gets underway.
Jamil, talk us through the concerns that some of those lawmakers have when it comes to the safety of TikTok. With millions of users here in the U.S., is the damage done at this point? Can you put this genie back in the bottle?
Well, look, obviously, as more people start to adopt TikTok and use it, and new users come on board, their data may be exposed to the Chinese. The core concern about TikTok is that this tremendous amount of user data that app collects. And while, look, TikTok says that today their app doesn't collect this type of data or that type of data, there's largely an admission that over the long run of TikTok's history, it has collected a tremendous amount of information of U.S. users, including location and user groups and the like, and has shared that with employees of TikTok in China and potentially is accessible to the Chinese government. As a result, that concern about all this user data going to China being accessible to the government is the biggest concern with TikTok. And then on top of that, Joe, of course, is the concern about Chinese manipulation of the data that's on TikTok and the information that's being conveyed, including potential misinformation and disinformation in the political sphere.
So, Julie, we've talked about the security issues, we've talked about the financial issues, but let's be clear, this is Washington. There is a political aspect to all this. We know there's concern from Democrats that banning TikTok could alienate some young voters. Now, a new Washington Post poll did find more than 40% of Americans would support a ban. What are you hearing from lawmakers? How close are we to an actual ban?
Well, look, this is not going to happen tonight or tomorrow. This is obviously months away. This would be a very significant move. And with Democrats in control of the Senate and in the White House, this affects their base, their voter base, a little bit more than Republicans. And that's pretty understood. You have most of this user base, nearly 138 million, that are of voting age. And that is super significant. And one of the arguments that was made even on TikTok as this press conference was being live streamed in the comments were we helped put President Biden in the White House. We talk about organizing on issues like abortion in these states where restrictions and bans are taking place. So they're making the case to Democrats, especially to President Biden, look, don't bite off the hand that feeds you. We put you in the White House. Pay attention to our concerns. But obviously, the White House Senate Intelligence Chairman Mark Warner, who is leading the cause, leading the charge on this bill, are saying the national security concerns outweigh any political benefits we might be having. But it is certainly a concern for Democrats, especially on this panel as the hearing gets underway. That's something they're paying attention to, despite maybe publicly saying they're not.
So, Jamil, is there anything lawmakers can do or the Biden administration can do to address these safety concerns but stop short of an outright ban?
Well, you know, Joe, one of the things, as Julie was laying out, that TikTok is trying to say it's going to do is they're engaging what they call Project Texas, about $1.5 billion plan to bring all U.S. user data to the U.S. and put it under what they say would be only U.S. employee access. But the reality is that TikTok has made these claims before. They've said the data is not going to be sent over to China. Then we find out through leaked disclosures that, in fact, the data is in China, that it is accessible to the Chinese government. And the fact of the matter is that TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, remains susceptible to Chinese government pressure and Chinese government influence and the laws in China. So even though TikTok may have a separate subsidiary and the data here in the U.S., there's still a very real possibility and a very significant concern amongst U.S. consumers and lawmakers that American data is going to end up in the hands of the Chinese government, which is, by the way, already stolen tremendous amounts of U.S. user data, whether we're talking about hacks against credit card rating companies, financial institutions, hotels, or the U.S. OPM database with all that security clearance information in it.
Huge story today. Julie Sirkin and Jamil Jaffer, thank you for kicking us off this hour.